What is going on, everybody? James Hancock here. I'm back to review I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is the 2025 sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer. They're really going all out, thinking up cool new original titles for this franchise, but it's not to be confused with the 2021 TV show I Know What You Did Last Summer. This is actually the movie franchise, which includes I Know What You Did Last Summer. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and the straight-to-video movie, which I did not see, I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer. But this movie, it's the legacy sequel, and Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt, they're back in action with a brand new generation of characters. And what they really should have called this movie is How to Kill 90s Nostalgia before it even really gets underway. We've had a lot of 80s nostalgia, very little 90s nostalgia. But this movie is so vapid and so empty and so utterly devoid of any of the qualities that you would hope for from a slasher movie. It's like the antithesis of what you want from movies. Like, movies are supposed to be thrilling, exciting, sexy, engaging, unpredictable, like all these wonderful, beautiful qualities that you would normally associate with a really fun, exciting slasher movie. And this movie kind of holds it together for like the first 20 minutes because it's basically borrowing the playbook from the original movie, which was a monster hit back in the day. For people who don't know, I think the original movie, hang on, I've got it written down somewhere, on a budget of $17 million, the original movie grossed $125 million. So I get why they tried to let lightning strike twice in the same place. However, no subsequent iteration of I Know What You Did Last Summer has included screenwriter Kevin Williamson. And Kevin Williamson, he was one of the screenwriters on Scream. He was a big deal in the late 90s when it came to kind of resurrecting the slasher genre. But Kevin Williamson's absence has been keenly felt ever since. But this new movie was co-written by Jennifer Caton Robinson and Sam Lansky, and it was also directed by Jennifer Caton Robinson. And her only previous credit I was familiar with was Thor: Love and Thunder. So if you want some more of that in your life, by all means, check out I Know What You Did Last Summer. But this new movie does a strange thing where it falls apart in such spectacular fashion. It becomes so stupid and so vapid that it almost beggars description, because for like the first 20 minutes or so, like I said before, it was more or less following the playbook of the original movie. And I was thinking to myself, how come critics are being so mean to this movie? You've got sexy young actors, you've got the basically the exact same premise of the original movie. What could go wrong? And then it starts to go wrong so utterly that like I was kind of slack-jawed with awe sitting there in the theater, like, I cannot believe it is becoming this dumb and it is making so many unforced bad creative decisions. It's an avalanche of bad creative decisions. Like, what are the things that make a movie less scary? First and foremost, turn the lights on. Well, it's got many chase sequences and thrill sequences that take place in broad daylight, in sunlight, where it just turns into kind of like a bad action movie. What's another thing that's not scary? Taking the mask off the killer. Like, if you take the mask off the killer and the big reveal is not scary, if anything, it's the antithesis of scary. It's like, why would you do that? Like, put them in the shadows and let them remain a mystery. And the big reveals toward the end of the movie, there are several, and each is more idiotic than the one that came before. But I couldn't believe, I was like, this is where you've been leading to?
It isn't something I like talking about.
You survived this once. We need your help.
And the movie features a series of pump fake endings, each of which lead to yet another pump fake ending that's more lousy than the one that came before it, where it gets to the point toward the end of the movie where it's just people sitting on a beach like, oh my God, can you believe so-and-so is still alive and that they were the killers? Like, it's awe-inspiring that filmmakers could so fundamentally not understand either the thriller genre or the horror genre or the slasher genre. And it almost feels like at a certain point, the entire crew behind the scenes was fired and that they brought in like the B team or the C team to finish the movie, because like the first 20 minutes or so is utterly unrecognizable compared to what comes after. But on some level, I must admit that there's something refreshingly stupid about where this movie goes, because it did remind me a little bit of the late 90s, where suddenly we had this tidal wave of young actors who were appearing in independent movies, comedies, and horror movies, some of which were amazing and are classics of that period, many of which are utterly forgettable, like a movie like I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, which is one of the worst movies of the late 90s by far. But as Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt start interacting with the actors, I was like, wow, like they have actually managed to recapture the complete and utter stupidity of that period where it's like the most superficial storytelling experiences imaginable. Just complete and total empty calories without an ounce of wit or originality or creativity. And so I just sat back and enjoyed the ride and just kept thinking to myself, thank God Keenan Ivory Wayans and Damon Wayans and Marlon Wayans and Sean Wayans and all those guys seem to be reuniting for a Scary Movie 6, because for people who don't remember, in 2000 there was Scary Movie, which mostly was poking fun at Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, along with a few other horror movies from that period. But it's one of the funniest comedies of that period. And like the best version of I Know What You Did Last Summer will always be
Come on, hurry up, let's go!
I won't have anything to do with this.
Shut up!
Cindy, come on. We'll just pretend it never happened. You know, like the time we got drunk and we went down on each other?
Where somehow it manages to deliver the superior version of that story in just a few scenes scattered throughout that movie. But as I was watching this new version of I Know What You Did Last Summer, like there were many scenes where I was like, oh my God, like Damon Wayans or Sean Wayans or whomever, they're going to have so much fucking fun imitating and poking fun at these scenes. Like, this is a minor spoiler, but there's one guy in this new movie where he's really into lifting weights and he likes drinking a lot and he's got a lot of self-confidence, thinks he's pretty hardcore. And as he's fighting the killer, aka the Fisherman, one of the least threatening villains in the history of the slasher genre, but as he's fighting him, he's like screaming with joy and like yelping with glee as he's landing punches. But meanwhile, he's being stabbed with like hooks and knives. Like, dumbass, he's stabbing you repeatedly and you appear to be trying to have fun while fighting him. He's been kind of looking forward to this face-off. But this is just one of many problems scattered throughout the movie where over and over and over again, everybody just keeps kicking the Fisherman's ass. Like, well, if y'all would stop running, y'all could just finish him off, because he'll like, you know, he'll appear, he'll swing his hook, and they'll kick him in the face, or they'll kick him in the balls, or they'll slam his head in a door, and he'll collapse. It's like, all right, stop running, finish him off. But it is a new problem in the slasher genre where the people being chased are too powerful, or they're too skillful, where it's like, let the killer or let the villain of your slasher series actually be terrifying. But in any case, there's so many problems plaguing this movie that it's almost hard to stay focused on one.
Someone is clearly coming after us.
I need to start drinking.
Getting back to the guy yelping and shrieking with glee as he's fighting the Fisherman, I just kept thinking to myself, Sean Wayans is going to have so much fucking fun imitating this scene when he gets a turn to do this in Scary Movie 6.
Hey, yo, dog. Does this shirt make me look gay? Nah, man. What about now?
But what's truly stupefying and bewildering about this latest version of I Know What You Did Last Summer is how the filmmakers seem to be either unaware of or have not properly digested the lessons of the satire of Scary Movie from 2000, because they keep repeating the things that have already been made fun of 25 years ago, like Carmen Electra running up to a table full of weapons and then reaching for the banana and running off. It's like, you know, it's hysterical. Or running up to a point where she sees two signs like, you know, live or certain death, and she takes the direction for certain death. And that scene obviously is making fun of Scream more than I Know What You Did Last Summer, but those lessons apply equally to I Know What You Did Last Summer. And yeah, this movie, I guess the lack of self-awareness or the lack of humor or wit is a big problem, because Kevin Williamson, while he definitely had more of a straightforward approach with I Know What You Did Last Summer, he still had a little bit of levity that actors like Sarah Michelle Gellar could take advantage of. And I think that cast in the first movie was just stronger. Ryan Philippe, I mean, I've been struggling with that dude's name ever since then, like 27, 28 years ago. But at least I think they assembled a more kind of hip and savvy cast for that movie, even though Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt are just like the poster children of the dumbest, beautiful actors of that period, where they basically were just like marketing those original movies on the size of Jennifer Love Hewitt's tatas. As you can see in the poster for the first movie and the poster for the second movie, it's like, come to see this movie and you'll get to see Jennifer Love Hewitt prance around in her underwear or bikinis or whatever. But that was enough, because once again, that first movie was a giant success.
Yeah, you guys are right. I mean, if we were, they'd probably cast some dingbat like Jennifer Love Huge Tits to play me.
Yeah.
But in the end, this movie fails in the most primary duty of any slasher movie, where the kill sequences either need to be scary, thrilling, like, you know, awe-inspiring, something. They need to give you a jolt. But more often than not in this movie, we have digital gore effects. I'm sorry, when you see like a hook go through somebody's neck and you see kind of clumsy, obvious digital effects kind of pasted over the image, it looks dreadful. It's not convincing at all. I mean, how have special effects gone backwards since like the late 70s and early 80s, which is obviously the great heyday of the slasher genre. And depending upon how loosely you define the slasher genre, some say that Black Christmas was the first, some people say Bay of Blood was the first, some people say Halloween. In any case, in the late 70s and early 80s, we got a lot of slasher movies, all of which use practical effects in much more satisfying fashion. So I'm like, even though I know it's probably cheaper and safer and easier to use digital effects in 2025, if they're not remotely convincing, don't do them. Like, get Tom Savini out of retirement and bring him back to show you how it's done. But digital gore effects are just one of many problems that are plaguing this latest movie. Because part of Kevin Williamson's success in the late 90s was the fact that both he as well as his characters were media savvy and they were aware of the tropes of the horror genre, and that made the movies feel kind of fresh and new. Here, the characters seem to have an unironic appreciation of the original. Like, they actually think Jennifer Love Hewitt's "What are you waiting for?" is actually like a real meaty piece of drama, like she's Laurence Olivier. I'm sorry, Jennifer Love Hewitt, she's very easy on the eyes, but no one's going to accuse her of being the next Marlon Brando.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
But this movie shamelessly tries to bring back the "What are you waiting for?" scene with total sincerity and a straight-faced moment, and it's just embarrassing and it's humiliating. Like, it was much better in Scary Movie 2000, where they're trying to make fun of it.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
But I think the final humiliating nail in the coffin for this movie is when they try to bring back "What are you waiting for?" and they try to deliver it in like the most earnest, sincere, like straightforward way possible.
What are you waiting for?
And it's just, it's so unintentionally humorous. Like, after Scary Movie 2000, I'm sorry I keep going back to it, but it is the best version of the story. But after we've already seen the "What are you waiting for?" scene made fun of, it's dead. It's dead in the water. You can't bring it back. You can't try to, like, make it live and breathe again. And I'm sorry, Jennifer Love Hewitt is not a strong enough actress to try to make it live and breathe again. So I just spent basically the last 20 minutes of this movie repeatedly slapping myself in the forehead, just blown away by the sheer profundity of the stupidity of this movie. But I guess if you wanted to be charitable, you could applaud this movie for trying to bring back the complete and total unpretentious, idiotic movies of the late 90s. Because while there were a lot of good independent movies and comedies and horror movies featuring young talent, like for every successful movie like American Pie, or for every successful movie like Scream, or every successful movie like Chasing Amy, any movie featuring young people you care to mention, whether they were like Miramax movies or Dimension movies or whatever, they would spawn like 10 or 15 or 20 kind of also-rans or movies that weren't quite as good or were dramatically worse. And so suddenly it just seemed like there was just this tidal wave of movies that were geared toward young audience members, made by young filmmakers. And I was at the perfect age to eat them up and or ridicule them, because I was born in 1976. And so I was in my early 20s, right at a time where the movie business suddenly seemed to have like a laser focus on hiring young filmmakers to make movies for that late teen, early 20-somethings crowd. But I also spent much of the late 90s talking shit about a lot of those movies. So it was a total relief when we started getting movies like Not Another Teen Movie, which did a very good job of satirizing and poking fun at a lot of the teen comedies of that period, in the same way the Scary Movie was poking fun at a lot of the horror movies. I would argue that all you need to know about the late 90s craze of like movies geared toward young people can be summed up in Not Another Teen Movie and Scary Movie. But I guess you have to give credit where credit is due for some of these actors for enjoying a lot of success at that time. Like, obviously, Sarah Michelle Gellar like really exploded at that time. Like in 1997, she had Scream 2, I Know What You Did Last Summer, as well as season 1 of Buffy. Like, that's a pretty good year for any actor. And obviously, she would later do things like Cruel Intentions with Ryan Felipe, who was also in I Know What You Did Last Summer. And Jennifer Love Hewitt would do this, as well as like Can't Hardly Wait. Like, I both have nostalgia for and hatred for the late 90s, because I was young at the time, and everybody's nostalgic for when they were young. But goddamn, just a lot of those movies like She's All That with Freddie Prinze Jr., they made me want to projectile vomit in all directions. But I remain open to some forms of 90s nostalgia, or some types of stories making a comeback. Like, a perfect example would be Caught Stealing, coming out at the end of August, from director Darren Aronofsky, and it stars Austin Butler and Zoe Kravitz. But it reminds me quite a bit of a lot of the kind of gangster movies, crime films, like urban dramas that were coming out in the 1990s, made by directors like Abel Ferrara, who has given us movies like Bad Lieutenant or King of New York. Movies that absolutely had the power to shock you to the core of your soul. And I feel like that's one thing that's been lost in contemporary cinema, movies that really just kind of Radley Cage. And Caught Stealing definitely seems to be more lighthearted, but it does look pretty goddamn entertaining. And of course, it helps that it's set in New York in the 1990s. And when I think of 90s cinema, what is the best of 90s cinema? Nearly always is some sort of kick-ass movie set in New York, made by a really cool director. But getting back to I Know What You Did Last Summer, I think if you were to compare this to Final Destination Bloodlines, it compares very unfavorably. And Final Destination came out in 2000. I Know What You Did Last Summer came out in 1997. So they're basically like, similar vibe, similar tone, similar cast of characters. But as far as the revivals or legacy sequels are concerned, Bloodlines blows this movie out of the water because it actually delivers the things that you want to see in a Final Destination movie. I didn't see anything that I wanted from I Know What You Did Last Summer. Although, you know what? I'll say one nice thing. I feel like I've been kind of unkind toward this movie, but there's a character by the name of Tyler, played by Gabrielle Bechtel, where she runs a podcast about true crime, and she's obsessed with everything related to the original I Know What You Did Last Summer, but she's really, really hot, and she likes making out with girls and talking about sex and talking about, murder and mayhem and all that stuff. She actually is a pretty entertaining character, so the movie very briefly comes to life while that character is a part of the story. But I don't want to offer any spoilers about what happens to her character, but sadly, she doesn't stick around for as long as she needed to in order to keep the movie interesting for a longer stretch of time.
This place is so beautiful, it makes me want to die.
And as long as I'm being charitable, I will say, they did assemble a good-looking cast of actors for this movie. I feel like the cast was totally game, but they were really let down by Sam Lansky and Jennifer Caton Robinson, where I will definitely be avoiding their movies in the future because they are just limp and inept and risk-averse and bland and boring. It's like chewing on cardboard. So that's my final analysis of I Know What You Did Last Summer from 2025. But go back and watch Scary Movie or Not Another Teen Movie. I guarantee you will laugh your fucking balls off, and hopefully Scary Movie 6 will get made and will deliver and incorporate a few scenes making fun of this latest abomination. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hope everybody has a great weekend, but more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.